What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We are back for our latest episode of State of Affairs, joined by my trusty co-host SW. As you can tell, I'm fresh off of my Stefan video because I have my boomer shirt on, just like Stefan's a boomer. So
Well, he
I think
also
we
did
could
try and
start there.
distance himself. He tried to say he wasn't quite a boomer, like in his debacle of I don't even know whatever he did
I
on
think
Saturday,
it's
or
pretty
was
close
that
to
Friday night?
Friday night. I think it's pretty close to being called a meltdown. I think it's in firmly in meltdown territory for Stefan.
And if anybody who's watching this listen to the whole space, let me know if I'm wrong because I only caught the last 45 minutes. But
So wait, let me just set it up really quick. If anybody hasn't been keeping track of this, this might be super internet niche. But I don't think so though. I think a lot of people saw it. Basically what happened is that Stefan Molyneux, staple on the right wing, philosopher, author. He's done some great work over the years. I actually still have respect for him. It's just a shame to watch him go out like this. He actually did a lot of good work on gender, on female vanity, the capacity for female evil back in the day, like really good red pilling stuff on gender. Basically, the short of it is that he came out on Friday on Twitter and had a whole meltdown with myself included. We had a brief exchange, but basically the gist of it is that he came out and said, women are no more to blame for the state of society than men are. And I don't understand why the men are so afraid to go talk to women. And they spend too much time on their video games and they're afraid to approach women. So
that's a really
basically,
good Steph
hey,
impression. And
I appreciate it. Spent too much time watching him
a
back in the
buddy
day.
of mine made a joke, and this is a friend of mine who has no interest in internet stuff, but he like came over and I was watching a video, and he was saying like he said Steph sounds like a guy faking multiple accents at the same time.
Accurate, accurate. It's like there's like a European
Canadian,
thing, a
South
Canadian
African.
English in there too. Like, so yeah, so that was the gist of it. And then the last video on this channel, I broke down my exchange with him for about an hour. But SW was actually in the Twitter space that he did trying to kind of salvage his image or try to walk it back. I wasn't on that space. What did you hear in that space? What was
It
the
was
gist of it from what you heard?
I don't even know how to describe the gist of it because he wasn't making a single coherent point, and he was just bouncing. I wouldn't even say bouncing. He was sidestepping around, and he was trying to frame dating discourse as angry incels with neckbeards and video games and blue-haired feminists. Like it went completely over his head that all this stuff with dating apps and the modern dating scene actually more pertains to normal people
Mm-hmm.
than
Mm-hmm.
this 2016 era of the incel and the feminist, the two polar opposite extremes. But it was weird because he kept circling back to relating it to himself and about his own suffering growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't have a concise point. That's what was like very, very strange to me is there wasn't a single concise point he was making. He was just strawmanning the incel versus feminism thing, circling back to his own childhood, and then at one point he was saying the whole thing was just a thought experiment that he was running, and it was and like all major people who do this kind of run around whatever you want to call it, he was cherry picking the worst, most unserious comments he got
Mm-hmm.
rather than legitimate criticism. So in his mind, he was arguing with the angsty incels that believe that he was arguing with the ones that have you ever heard the incel theory where they're like, your kids are not your own because DNA stores inside women, and you've heard
Yeah.
that incel yeah,
Yeah.
it's like he was his he in his mind he was arguing with people that unironically believe that.
Yeah. Okay. He was arguing with he was like shadow boxing with a ghost, kind of like the ghost
Yeah,
of incels. Yeah. Okay. I got you.
and then it just kept he kept saying that these men are brainwashed by propaganda and that the women are too, and it was just I can't really figure out the concise way of saying it, and
Yeah.
then it would just weirdly circle back to the his take about is $500 more now than it was in the past, because
Yeah.
he then try and sidestep to the economic argument, the social argument. It just I couldn't really understand what the hell he was saying because I don't think anyone could. It was
Yeah.
just him grandstanding, saying ridiculous stuff, and the propaganda thing's funny because it's like
Dude, you're
you
Stefan
literally,
Molyneux.
yeah, like is the egg meme
Yeah,
is
the egg
that
carton meme. That
is
is lit.
that
That's
propaganda?
It was good propaganda. It was true propaganda, but it was propaganda nonetheless. Um, yeah, dude, it's really bizarre. It's like you said, he's still arguing with he's still operating in the blue-haired feminist and the neckbeard incel thing. And it's like, yeah, maybe that was true in 2016, but like you just said, these are issues that have percolated enough to where these are issues that normal people are having. Even people who are not involved in the Twitter sphere like we're talking about are very aware of like the ratio on dating apps and how much attention women get and how much adoration they get and how everything is guys' fault. For
And
Stefan to
he
still be trapped there is ridiculous, man.
because the other thing he kept harping on was this straw man of the angry incel being like, I can't even go talk to a girl or I'm gonna get arrested or
He's
shamed on the internet.
he's
And
really
it's
hung
like,
up on that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like there's a lot of people out there. I shouldn't even say people. I'll classify it more as there's tons of dudes out there that can have a convert. That the issue isn't being able to talk to women.
Right.
That's not the issue at all. The issue is you can talk to a girl, you can get her number, but is it going to go anywhere?
Right.
And
And
it's like
I
like he doesn't even give like the straw man he's arguing with. He can't even fathom that it's actually someone that I shouldn't say might that 100% can get a date. Yeah,
exactly.
he's just not looking past it, past the angry incel pouting
I would
with his
even
arms crossed.
I would even push back a little bit on his point. Like I actually wouldn't even walk that back too much. Yes, you absolutely can have your life ruined by an awkward exchange at Starbucks. The example I always use is that one where I could pull it up, but the mom who tweeted out, she said, "My daughter is 18 years old and she was alone at Starbucks."
Oh, is that
And
when the barista wrote on the cup, call
yes,
if you need,
yes.
let me know if you need help?
So the story goes, and the mom is painting this is like some creepy pervert, some 50-year-old man. In all reality, it was probably just a younger 20-something guy. And she says, this man approached my daughter and started chatting with her, and the baristas handed her a cup and said, and wrote on the cup, if you're in danger, take the lid off and we'll intervene. It's like, dude, and I know he would just say, well, that's a crazy example. That
Actually, he had a
happens.
better response.
Oh God. And but see, the thing is like that guy's life, and if that gets taken one step further and somebody decides to take his picture, he's losing his job. And the thing, I'll let you go, but the thing that shocks me that he doesn't understand about that, what shocks me about the fact that he doesn't understand that is this has already been done with racism. If you do a racism in public and you tell a black person to I don't know anything, turn down their speaker or something, you can lose your job for that. That's becoming less so because of black fatigue, like we've talked about. But there's still taboos around even like being perceived as racist in the real world. So if it's not, so if he understands, which I'm sure he does, that that can happen with race, why wouldn't that happen with gender? And I think what it comes down to for him is that he has a daughter, and I think that that's where he's getting that like that feedback from. He's like trying to like shape the world for his daughter or something, where he's like, it's not my daughter's fault that she cannot find a date. It's these men. It's a really I think it's a girl dad thing with him, but
Yep.
yeah, I think that's what's going on there.
Well, what's funny is somebody brought up the Starbucks thing, and he kept saying like, and he said at one point, he goes, "Yeah, so like she takes a video at Starbucks and puts you on blast across the internet. There's probably going to be 100 girls that think you're awesome, and you'll probably do better because of it."
That is the most boomer thing I've ever heard. Dude,
Well, the thing is, the
that is
only
perfect
anytime
boomer.
you see that and you see the women replying like, actually, this guy's cool. It's married boomer women saying that.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, I would love if my son behaved that way. That's how my son is. It's not like, dude, nobody is knocking down that guy's door to date him. His life has been ruined. And also it's being ruined because women are they conform. We all know this. They
Do you
conform to the
remember
group.
the Do you remember the video where it was like some girls at a hotel pool with their parents and some guy. It wasn't like a guy. Like so, like when I saw the video or when I heard about the video, I thought it was going to be like some 50-year-old guy just being like some straight up Law and Order SVU stuff. But
Exactly.
then
It's
all of a sudden, I watched the video and you can hear the guy's voice. He's just like a nerdy teenager trying to talk to this girl,
oh, I
and
think I have seen that. I know
this
what
was
you're
a
talking
while
about.
back.
I know what you're
It
talking about
actually
though.
brought up some interesting right wing Twitter discourse because I remember BAP was actually like the big champion
Of the
of
guy.
saying like of the guy, and then
Yeah.
of course it just kind of then you had a few people be like, that's not how you do it. It's inappropriate, but it's the exact same concept that if I when I didn't watch the video, I thought the voice was going to be a 50-year-old man. It was going to
Hmm.
be like some really legit creepy shit, and then you hear the voice and you're like, wait, this is like the guy's like the same age as her.
Exactly. And that's what it always comes down to is that, in these cases where it's like, I was almost kidnapped at the store because this guy approached me. It's not even that the guy is inherently creepy or like trying to do anything wrong. It's just that he doesn't fit the image of who they think should be approaching them. So it's always the example of like if Chad approached her and said,
The HR meme.
yeah, it's the HR meme. If Chad were like, get in my car, she'd be like, but if it's like a slightly less attractive guy, or he doesn't make enough money, or he look like whatever he looks like, then it's like he raped me in the store. You know what I mean? Like,
I
and
was
that's what
almost
always,
sex trafficked.
yeah, I was almost sex trafficked at Walgreens. Like, no, you weren't. You're brain fried on Law and Order SVU. And for Steph to act like that's not happening is, I think it's the girl dad thing. I think that he hasn't updated his talking points, and it's really showing. When you read a lot of his comments on Twitter now, it's a lot of pushback.
And
It's
I
not
think
just
that
like sycophants like it used to be.
it's one of those boomer blind spot things because I've talked to boomers and because boomers will always be like, oh, what do you probably got a date, it's Friday night, and I'm like, not this Friday.
Right,
And it's
right.
like, and they're just like, it just they short circuit when they talk to young people about the dating market.
Hmm.
And I think that's why Steph constantly reverts back to basically framing guys unhappy with the dating market as like the stereotypical incel, is because maybe he has that same blind spot that he can't fathom that there's lots of normal guys out there who are talking to women, can
Right.
talk to women, and do go on dates, but nothing ever comes of any of it.
Yeah, exactly. And but see, why is nothing coming of it? Because
And that's where
why
they
is
don't think 3 steps ahead.
no, and it's shocking to say that about someone like Stefan because he's obviously intelligent. He's not a dumb guy. He has a higher IQ than probably you and I. Like he's not stupid. But there's, like you said, the blind spot. Why is nothing coming of it? It's because women are extending those career years, they're extending those college years, they're putting off childbearing until 35. That's not the fault of the guy. Fundamentally, it's not.
Or they can't find a guy whose job they deem respectable enough.
Exactly,
And
exactly. They
it
deem
doesn't even
appropriate, right?
it's we've talked about the money part of it, but there's a lot of women out there who they they're workaholics, but they also want someone who has that nice corporate title with the nice that works for a nice big company,
Hmm.
and more of those jobs go to other young women.
Exactly, exactly. And it ties into what we were talking about last week with the boomers in charge. They want to sleep with every young millennial they hire. They're not going to hire, the hardworking guy who just graduated college. They want to hire Emma, who will, slave away at her job, who we can maybe make a pass at the Christmas party. That's what they want. They're horny and they're simping, basically. And Stefan is falling into the same thing. Oh no, it couldn't be the fault of our sweet princess. It's those men. It's the men. It's like I almost wonder if things would have turned out differently if he had a son. You know what I
I
mean?
guarantee it would. Because
He's
I mean, and that was one thing where, and I'm gonna go with boomers on this one,
okay.
but and I think it's different with Gen X. But with boomers, you'll notice that there's a lot less crazy feminism with female boomers who've had sons. Now, it was funny growing up that it was because my mom would be like, "Oh, those teachers always pick the women," and all the other friends of mine, their moms would say the same thing. Like the boomer women really had it narrowed down where they could see the ills of the Gen X
Yeah,
feminism.
I agree. I totally agree. I said that in the
And
video that I just did about Stefan. If you were to introduce a 31-year-old, a woman who's 31 today, to introduce her to a woman who was 31 at that time in 1960, they would almost be different creatures. Like they wouldn't even be able to like talk to each other. The woman from who's 31 in 1960 would like spit on a modern 31-year-old. She'd be like, "You're disgusting." Like, I think as a guy, I think this would even transcend race a little bit. Me as a 31-year-old, I could talk to a guy in 1970 who was 31, and we would roughly have like the same goals and aspirations. We might have similar jobs. We'd go to church on Sundays. Like we'd probably watch baseball or something together. The 31-year-old woman today is completely different, a completely different animal than the 31-year-old in 1960. It's just different worlds. Men's nature hasn't changed. It's that we've unleashed the feminine into society, and we're dealing with the consequences now.
well, like you'll see crazy stuff on like Reddit and Facebook where it's almost like a a Gen X mom or a millennial mom almost would I wouldn't say almost in most situations would side with a random girl her
Girl,
son's age
you're right.
than her own son. Like
Yes,
you've seen it where I'm trying to raise my son to be a good man, and it's
that's a
like
good point.
their whole mindset in raising their sons is
Is to make
about
them their
is
is to turn them into their daughter in a way.
or to they view their son as such an inherent enemy that they view women as a collective that
Hmm.
they almost their whole mindset raising their sons is to make them accept or is on behalf of random women they've never met.
True. I would say that's even more prominent with millennial than because I feel like
Oh yeah.
I feel like you have more of your finger on the pulse when it comes to Gen X. I don't know as I feel like I don't know as many Gen Xers as you do.
I only know I mean, it's just through people. Pretty much all my friends are millennials.
Okay, so you know what I'm yeah.
But
I
like Gen X, I've seen Gen X. I kind of view from afar because they're
uh-huh.
close enough. They're close enough just in the sense of by proxy, I see a lot of Gen X,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
kind of the parents of Zoomers. So a lot of Zoomers, it goes back to how Gen X raised them.
Right. Right. And I think these millennial women are just they're just awful, man.
This
We
is
are
going to be weird with millennial women, where I could see it breaking either way, where I could almost see them being worse than the Gen, or maybe it's just going to be an either or, where they're either going to be so much worse than the Gen X, or they'll be like their boomer parent, or they'll kind of be like their boomer parents and not be
yeah.
rabid feminists who
I, I think the
care
way
more
it's
about the female collective than their own male sons.
yeah, I mean the way it's breaking for men, it seems like the guys are just going full right wing right now, man. The young guys. Um, these millennial moms have just like I think they've just poisoned the well. I think the sons are like waking up and they're looking at like Nick Fuentes edits for the most part. Like, I think they despise the amount of feminism that they've been fed and they really don't like it. Um, it'll be interesting to see what the young girls do. But as far as the guys, I think they're breaking to the right for for right now. So I think that'll be an interesting development. Um, yeah, I think that's a good tie-in. So one of the things that Stefan was harping on was, or not, on the contrary, one of the things that he was ignoring was the job market and how women, basically, you can't talk about the gender issue without talking about the labor market because women, as we know, are making good money now. They're in a lot of cases making more than men. They're staying in school. They're better educated in terms of like college
They're
years.
more team players
Yeah, they're team
for most
players. They're
for
playing by
most
the
companies.
rules. Yeah, they're climbing the ladder. And it's young men, and if we're going to get hone it down even more, it's young white men who are being boxed out of the economy. So you really can't look at it outside of the angle of the immigration and the labor market. So this was a story sent to me. I'm going to do him the favor. Let me look him up really quick because I did want to shout him out for sending me this story. It was America First Initiative, AFI underscore 1776. Much appreciated for you sending me this story for us to take a look at. Um, he wanted us to cover this, and I think it's a good tie-in. So, okay, got some NBA free agency stuff I was looking at before this. Okay, congrats on landing Miles Turner, by the way, for the Bucks.
I
That's
like
pretty
it.
cool.
I was getting really hot arguing the Lillard thing with people. It's like you can't have an offensive guard. I mean, it's not even cold-hearted. Like I don't
Hmm.
even want to preface it by saying it's cold-hearted because it's not the NFL. It's not like
Yeah,
you just cut the guy high and dry. He's gonna get paid.
exactly.
He'll get some other team to sign him and he'll be fine, but he's not what he thinks he is, and it was
Yeah,
very clear the last 2 years.
exactly, exactly. And yeah, I think Turner will be a good pickup for y'all. That's a really good front court, Giannis and Turner starting next
I
to each
like
other.
he's basically replacing Brooke Lopez,
And
and
that's an
that's a
upgrade.
huge
That's a
upgrade.
massive upgrade.
Now I
Lopez was
just
a
want them to go. I want Russell Westbrook. As much as I complain that he's a whiner and all
I
that,
can't stand Russ, but okay.
If you put on a Bucks jersey, or him or Chris Paul put on a Bucks jersey,
Fair enough.
I
Fair enough.
temporarily halt the hatred
Fair
just
enough.
because they're desperate at point guard.
It's the name on the front of the jersey, not the back of the jersey.
Yeah,
So yeah, here's the story that he wanted us to take a look at. I think it highlights very well what's going on in the job market that's boxing a lot of guys out of not only good jobs, but also getting involved in the dating market. Because this is how you become that that I almost say that it's a fictitious guy, but the fictitious guy that Steph and Tommy Lahren talk about, where you're 29 years old, living in mom's basement, playing video games, getting DoorDash, whatever. I mean, how does a person like that come to be? It comes to be in situations like this. This is what the story is. There's a guy named Soham Parkeh in India who works at 3 or 4 startups at the same time. He's been preying on YC companies and more. Beware. I fired this guy in his first week and told him to stop lying and scamming people. He hasn't stopped a year later. No more excuses. So, what we're finding out about this guy, I think there's more on it. So, he just lies on his resume, basically.
an Indian
Um,
lying on their
I
resume.
know, right?
What?
No, no, no. These are honest, hard workers that we're bringing over here, man. What are you talking about? They don't lie, right? So basically, he lies on his resume. He job stacks, and there was one other good tweet about it. Yeah, so Parka is just the tip of the iceberg, just like this redditor pulling 800,000 a year, working 5 jobs. Um, here's the thing. My takeaway from this is not I don't have a boomer mindset on this of like, if only the people in America would work this hard, then they wouldn't be complaining. It's like, no, dude, it's a lot like the dating market where not only are you competing with your peers for jobs, you have a guy
Competing with
in
the whole
you're
world.
competing with the entire world. There's a guy in India who's working 5 jobs in the US. The fact that that's even allowed to happen shows just how we've completely sold out our middle class, our working class to the highest bidder, or I guess in this case the
Well, the thing with the with Indians is, and they always their gimmick, especially when they push back against like anyone on right wing Twitter, their gimmick is just that they're the best, most well behaved boy ever. They
Mhm.
don't drink. We just work. And it's like it's such a slavish mindset that
Right.
they think is virtuous.
Yes. That is not the mindset. I mean, this it all tie everything we're talking about on the show ties in on our show in general. It all ties in together because it ties in with Vivek Ramaswamy's meltdown on Christmas Eve, the infamous "Saved by the Bell" tweet, where he said that American kids spend too much time they all want to be the high school quarterback. They don't want to be the math Olympiad. And it's like, yeah, dude, we're not bugs. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
for a billion people, I always think about this, like with China and India specifically. You have these countries that have a billion people, right? Name me one famous, innovative, game-changing, worldwide known name in China or India that is not named Yao Ming, Jack Ma, Mao, or Xi Jinping. You can't. They're not innovators. Without the ingenuity of the Western world, and if we're honing it down again, we're talking about white people for the most part, although there are exceptions, I get that. But they are not innovators. They are bug people, and
they're workers,
I'm not saying that like
and not in a good way.
I'm not saying that like I'm denying that they're people that can go to heaven. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in terms of civilizational impact, they are bug people. They are ants that build the biggest ant hill. As you can see by their architecture, they just crowd like ants. They don't create. And when I see someone like Vivek say, if only they just need to have their fingers bleed at the piano at 4 years old, like I
And
did.
that's
It's
the
like,
other thing about the whole for all the Asians who are violin or who are instrument prodigies,
mhm.
none of them ever actually make their own music. They just get really
Right.
good at playing music off at playing other people's music.
Exactly. Yeah, where's the Chinese innovation? I mean, you would think, right? With all these
For all
people
the
that
talent,
for all
they
the
have
talent, I would
they
expect
have no
some great,
vision.
where are the symphonies coming out of India? Where's the rock and roll coming out of China? Where I mean, for all the critiques, where's the rap music coming out of there? You know what I mean? Like at the very least, you can say that that was created here. And I just really hate that mindset of like, because you realize when you start to talk to them, it's really not about learning the skill itself. It's about putting on the resume that they learned the skill. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
I would have respect for Vivek if he became a concert pianist and made his own stuff. I'd be like, damn, that's impressive. No, he learned piano so he could put it on his resume and say, look what a good boy I've been. That's what they do.
It, and that good boy is the best way to describe it because I in a lot of like the back and forth on Twitter where Indians will be like, "You're all fentanyl addicts, drunks, like you're just drug addicts who don't want to work." And it's like we their whole gimmick is that they're the good boys. They
Yes,
don't go out they don't go out and do they like their friends are all other Indians.
right.
They all live five to an apartment. They don't go out. Maybe they go to Indian restaurants every once in a while, but they
Uh-huh.
buy giant 5 pound bags of rice. They're on Snap and they buy all their chicken and vegetables and
They eat their veggies like a good boy.
yeah,
Literally,
everything
yes.
with them is just they're good boys and they just want to be the good boy that gets the job and the promotion.
And
But they don't
also,
have any vision. It's
no,
not like maybe they'll have some generic vision like I want a Lamborghini and a house with
or
a swimming pool.
or at a corporate level, maybe they'll have a vision of like, I want the company to run efficiently or
Nah,
something. But
I don't even think they think
it's
that
not,
deep.
yeah, it's
They
not even like a creator mindset. It's like
it's
a,
literally they just want to be the good boy who gets a gold star and is told and just has the job. That's it. It and I've seen this to a very smaller extent. I've seen it with Hispanics too, where and I saw this with more Gen Z where you have these kids who go to or these Hispanic kids from working class communities and they get scholarships to I know there's like it's kind of like Cristo Rey or something, and they have a bunch of these high schools across the country where
mhm.
they're really nice high schools. These kids take entrepreneurship programs. They go like they get all these benefits of stuff that just didn't exist 20 years ago, where it's to groom them for the workforce. Then they get to the workforce and they think the full extent of working in an office is putting on a well-fitting suit and making small talk in the break room.
Exactly. And there's no real, like you said, there's no drive, there's no ingenuity to create something.
There's no
Um,
vision. It's not like their goal is they want the title, but they don't understand but like the idea of how would you revolutionize this? What would you do to change the schematics and logistics of this company?
Right.
It just doesn't exist to them. They just want to sit on a computer and send flowery worded emails
Exactly.
while while having a new suit for every day.
I think it's cope too, especially with the Indians, and the Chinese to a lesser extent, because the Chinese I don't think care as much about um, like the social aspect. I think the Chinese kind of are happy to be like a worker bug in a way. I think they're
But
content
I
with that.
also will say, in my experiences, the Chinese have a little more ingenuity
I
and they
agree.
have a little more, like Indian ingenuity is just buying a subway.
Exactly,
Whereas
exactly.
like I've met Chinese people who they know how to game the U.S. economy in the
Right.
sense that
Well, I mean, they're higher IQ. They're higher
yeah,
IQ Indians.
exactly.
That's just a numbers game.
They'll go out and buy a bunch of apartment buildings, or they'll buy into a real estate conglomerate, sell it,
They're less
selling units to
they're
investors.
they're less creative and less inventive Jews, I'm realizing. They're
Exactly.
Jews without the storytelling and without the victim narrative, but they are just like they will undermine your society just as much a lot of times.
But the thing
Um,
I'll exactly, but the other thing I'll notice with Chinese people who get into real estate is they're very numbers oriented in a way that
Almost in an
they're
inhuman
not
way.
in an inhuman way, but they're and this isn't to put I guess I'll put them over a little bit. If I'm going to compare Chinese customers I've had to Indian customers, it's night and day. Like
Mm,
Indians will see Chinese, they want, let's say it's they want to buy a bunch of rental properties.
hmm
They'll buy good properties. They'll put money into them.
hmm
They'll actually manage it in a very meticulous way that
hmm
is profitable.
hmm
Indians just want to be able to say they're landlords.
I mean, they
That's
kind of remind
literally it.
me
And every
Chinese are like Jews. Indians are like similar to blacks, honestly, in that way. At least
well,
with
Indians are
it's
kind of
like they
similar
want to
to
say that they have a rental
yes,
property.
exactly. Like, and their prop Indians properties are all shit. They hire
Yes,
the work.
I've seen that.
They see like Chinese people don't. They're not as shrewd negotiators. Like if you have a price they like, they're
Hmm
not going to beat you down over it. They're just going to be because the other thing is they've probably gotten five or six quotes before they get the one they want,
Right.
and they don't like Indians. It's about like these crazy small victories where they're just going to nag you down, where they want to
Yes,
be able to say they got something cheap, which is why
exactly.
all the Indian landlords hire white crackheads who are barely functional. I think it's because they like it's their
They
version
like
of a slave.
correct. That's what it is. And
It's
that's what
their
I was going to
version of a
say
slave.
is that I think that's what I was saying is I think it's a lot of cope. If we're going back to the vet thing and the you guys don't work hard enough and you're all fent addicts. One, the reason they know that is because they only hire the fent addicts because they want
Exactly.
to rule over them, first of all. Second of all, the Indian, there's a thing with them where like they really resent like not being a part of white culture. Like they want to be the reason that Vivek gets mad at the star quarterback is because he saw him dating the cute blonde girl and he wanted that, but he couldn't get that. The
But it's
Chinese are
funny too
cool in their own
because
little enclave.
yes, and they don't care if they're not invited to stuff. Where I feel like
Right.
Indians
Indians do care. They hold on to
they
that.
want to be invited to stuff, but at the same time, there's so many of them who they don't do a good job
They
assimilating.
don't. They just don't. Exactly.
Where it's like outside of like medical and tech, it's
And
like
look, maybe this is cope and maybe this will change when my kid gets older, kids get older, whatever. But I would take the kid, and I'm not saying anything extreme like, he got a gun charge or something or like robbed a store. I would take the kid who's made a couple mistakes, who maybe has a 3.95 GPA, but you know, parties responsibly on the weekends or whatever, or you caught him having a beer one time, ooh, as opposed to just like this literal like slave of like he's at piano at 4 and then he does tennis at 6 and then 3 days a week he's at spelling bee practice. It's like I actually want a kid who's going to create, innovate, has a
And
different
have a
way of
life.
looking at have a life. Like, I don't think that's cope. I think it's actually okay to take the weekends off and go to a party. I know, Vivek, I'm sorry my fingers aren't bleeding at the piano, but yeah, I'll take that kid any day of the week than like a bug, a literal bug slave. Sorry, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think this is why the GOP types love Indians,
Right.
because
Right.
like the old pre-Trump GOP really was a work 60 hours a week at a blue collar job and you'll be fine, or they extol hard work as some kind of virtue, when in a lot, or I
Uh-huh.
should say hard work, they extol long hours.
Long hours. There you go. Good
That it's
good
not hard
distinction.
work, it's long hours. That's what they care about. And I've I've posted this on Twitter that if mainly because I had a buddy when we were 18, got a job where he was making $20 an hour working like 65-hour weeks.
Uh-huh.
But when you work 5 days a week and then you have to work till noon on Saturday, dude
Hmm.
just ends up sleeping or drinking himself till Monday. And
Exactly.
the point is, that's why I never understood the virtue of thinking long hours was a good thing,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
you need time to actually have a life. And I've
Hmm.
never met a single blue collar person who flexes the long hours and actually becomes financially successful.
Exactly. Exactly. That's very well
And I
put.
think that's why they're so. That's why you see a lot of the or like the kind of upper middle class, or I shouldn't say the middle class blue collar boomers really like dunking on the kids with college debt,
Hmm.
because they can't dunk on their contemporaries,
Hmm.
because all the boomers who went to college, even partially, all make way more money than them, and
Exactly.
all ended up more successful. So they get off dunking on the millennial who got told to go to college and ends
By
up with,
them. By them, by
by
the way.
not even by, well, no, by their parents,
Well, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
but
by
then you
by
get,
the older generation, yeah.
yeah, and and I shouldn't say he, but that's why those boomers think that their 65-hour a week jobs that basically, and realistically right now they're lower middle class.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
think those 70-hour a weeks, and the fact that they bought a boat and they put a corny bar in their garage makes them cool and successful. So they
Exactly.
like dunking on the millennial attorney who has to live in their shitty C plus neighborhood
Hmm.
because the millennial attorney had to spend $150,000 to become an attorney.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, that's what's going on with the GOP right now. I do feel like there's a shift in their rhetoric really over the last like 2 or 3 years since people have really become aware of the Indian thing. They're having to shift their shitting basically to going all over, like we've talked about, the young white guys um, who are 25 to 30 and try to shift the goal, not shift the goalposts, but change the framing and say that they're actually the lazy ones because Indians come here and they're good boys and they work harder than you, when
Well,
in
it's like
reality you're just
Mexicans
choosing to pay
too.
them less.
And it's the
Yeah,
same
same
thing with
thing with
Mexicans
Mexicans,
too in the
right?
trades, where the funny thing with that though is they just don't speak Spanish, so they just think they mistake the quietness for being a good upstanding guy, but if they could speak Spanish, I don't think
Yeah,
they'd have that same opinion.
that's a good point. And honestly, their work doesn't really live up to it. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the videos of
Well, I've seen those
the house
videos, and
contractors.
the thing is, it's like, and especially working kind of somewhat related to that, it's not like, and I hate saying this because you have bad contractors of all persuasions,
Right.
but it's kind of like it's this whole idea that the widespread use of, that in general blanket every single Mexican is the greatest worker ever is just not. It's
Exactly.
nonsense.
Yeah, I think that's important. You're not saying that all Mexicans do bad work. Really, you're saying the opposite, that not all Mexican work is perfect. And that's what
And
boomers
that's
think.
what exactly, it's that framing that gets people all in a tizzy,
Right.
because they'll and it's funny to go back to the Indian white meth head slave. They go back to like, well, what about they use that guy as an example, and
Right.
it's just all dishonest.
Yeah, I mean, I have here pulled up on the screen. This is one of the things I wanted to look at. Then we can go to kind of some funnier stuff. But um, I was talking to a millennial friend of mine, and I was trying to explain. She's apolitical. She doesn't get it. But um, she was saying that I was trying to explain to her the job market H-1B issue thing of guys, basically what we talk about, of guys getting boxed out of the economy. And she just didn't understand. She's like, "No, I'm sure there's no way that they're hiring H1. You think they're really just like hiring them from India and like the
I
white
have
guys
a
just."
few, I have
I'm
a
like,
number of close mutuals on Twitter, and I say close, not like I know them by name or anything, or by their real names or anything, but just
"Yeah,
kind of like
yeah,
a core group. They all work in tech,
uh-huh," and they can
so
attest to it. Yeah.
oh, they got the stories.
Well, and then I mean, here's just I sent this to her. Here's the numbers game. So there was a H1B, or there were 6,327 H1B visa requests that Microsoft filed for, right? So
Yep. Oh, I
2,300
saw this.
workers, 817 software engineers, all this, right? So they're asking for 6,300 new Indian workers. What do we see? What was this, July 1st? July 2nd, Microsoft plans to lay off 9,000 workers. The economy is kind of a zero-sum game as much as the GOP doesn't want you to believe that. They want you to think of it as just like an ever increasing expanding pie that everybody just gets more out of. It's like, no. When they hire 6,300 Indian workers, they're going to lay off 9,000 American workers. And what happens to these 9,000 American workers? They become the people that the GOP calls lazy bums because they don't want to work. No, I think it was your policies that you put in place that allowed this environment to fester where companies can bring in 6,300 for the cost of 9,000 Americans, you know?
Yeah, and the thing is, the if you let Indians go up the ranks,
Oh,
they're just gonna hire more.
right. And that's what's happening at all these companies. Um, so yeah, the short of it is that the economy is fake and gay, basically. And so we've been talking about this side of it. The guys getting boxed out, right? The the H-1Bs, the bringing in of the Chinese and the Indians. So then I guess the next question would be like something like, well, okay, so what are the women doing then? Because that's the flip side. If the guys are getting boxed out, what are the women doing where they're not getting boxed out as much? Here's the answer to that. Here's what's going on a lot in these places.
There.
Can you
How'd
hear?
I know a TikTok was gonna come up?
Okay, this is how the women are staying employed, by the way. These are people that command like 80, 90, $100,000 a year salaries, by the way. So this is a totally necessary and needed job for the economy to function. Keep that in mind. Oops.
They're 10, but. Okay, they're 10, but they showed up late to an interview and they didn't say sorry.
They're 5. Okay, they're a 10, but their resume is all in first person.
Like a 6.5. They're a 10, but they didn't write a cover letter.
8.5. All right, they're a 10, but their resume is in Word doc.
Honestly, 10. You can change it into a PDF.
You can, but, well, I can. Fair. Shit.
Do you see this? Like this is I maybe this isn't like
I'm
jarring.
grabbing the bridge of my nose right now.
Dude, like I know if you're above a certain age, maybe you're just like, yeah, so what? These are like HR girls, whatever. Dude, they're
This is
treating
all fake and
it's
gay.
fake and gay. This is not real. These are not real jobs.
Like,
They're
why?
what? What?
If you're hiring, this is why, and I know a lot of COOs, CEOs, maybe
Uh-huh.
not, okay, maybe not the CEO or
But
COO,
you know,
but
high level
on
C-suite.
some level, high level project managers should be doing the interview. Like,
Why do I
if,
need this? Why do I
why do
need
these,
this?
like, other than just sorting them and forwarding their resumes
And
to the
I mean
managers,
literally, like this should be a 15-hour a week job at the most. You know what I mean?
this
Like they should be stapling the thing, printing it out, and if they even exist, that is the
also,
extent.
Could you imagine if two dudes, and I'm gonna do the
No, no,
hypocrisy,
no, but it's accurate. It's accurate.
but
Yeah.
like if even though I know they're not talking about looks, if a guy is did, and you notice they always said he, they said
Yeah.
he a
Well,
lot in
because they
that.
get off on that. They get off on that.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not like they changed it every other one. They said he.
He.
Like
Yeah, I didn't
they're
catch that. You're right.
they said he. And it's like if a dude did a video, because I thought we're not allowed to use the number system. I thought the number
I
system's
thought I
misogynistic
thought that was, but, well,
and a bridge too far.
that's the other thing. They fundamentally cannot separate their work life from treating it like Tinder. They are thumbing through these apps like it's Tinder. And that's how they view their whole work life is like, yeah, I basically play Tinder, but with
Like,
candidates all day.
what have either of those two accomplished
Created,
to be
accomplished,
able,
innovated. Right.
created or accomplished, to be able to have any say in the hiring process whatsoever, other than here's a stack, alphabetize it, and give it to someone who knows what they're talking about?
Exactly. And it's, I mean, could you imagine just how much, and here's kind of the breakdown. I said it in the tweet. Said this is why you're not getting a call back even though you sent out thousands of apps. It's because Ankita and Emma are thumbing through your resume like it's Tinder and rating it based on vibes. This is what they do all day, and it's called recruiting. They never fill the positions. And then I said, and what happens when the positions don't get filled? Ankita and Emma cry to the company and they say, oh my gosh, we are so overworked. We have to fill these positions, but none of these guys are like giving me good vibes. We need to make the department bigger. We need more recruiters. I need to have a team under me of other recruiters. It justifies its own existence. It's a parasite. They're parasitic, man.
It and it's I this should be like if this should be a job for somebody who's half retired and
Right.
or
This
as
is
somebody
yes.
who or somebody who's actually worked at a high level and it's like just like I don't know, maybe some mom who actually worked at a high level in her 20s
Yes.
and they're like,
Yes.
"Hey, we got a role for you. We need you to sift through the through granted that could be its own problem in its own way.
Sure.
But my point is it shouldn't be two 24-year-old chicks who are basically playing Tinder while they kill 8 hours before going out for margaritas and going to spin class."
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like you said, I totally agree. This needs to be done by the department manager. The department manager knows what they need. They don't know what the department manager needs. If anything, they're probably making it harder for the department manager to hire accurately because they've eliminated some guy out of the pool because what did she say? He had it in a Word doc or something. Like what? Like it's beyond it's parasitic, man.
You
It's
didn't put a
insane.
cover letter.
Well, it's high school.
Okay, they're a 10, but their answer to my biggest weakness is perfectionism.
They're a 7.
Oh my!
They're a 10,
it's
but their
just
resume is 5 pages.
This is almost like
I'm gonna read all that.
when women post the screenshots, their Tinder screenshots.
yeah, exactly,
Someone actually
exactly.
made a really good point that women posting Tinder screenshots is revenge porn. It's
Oh yeah,
almost the same as if a guy posted a girl's nudes.
right, right. Posting DMs is what that is. It's revenge, but in a more female, a more feminine, evil way. You know what
But
I mean?
I think it's almost exactly on par because it kind of does go back to the Steph thing where it's like, oh, be corny in the DM, she'll find it charming, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden
All of a
it's
sudden,
posted on Twitter with 250,000 likes, even though
exactly.
your name's not on there. But it's just like, could you imagine like, and like obviously you're married, and I don't mess around with the online apps, but that would even if it's not your name on there, to if you went on Twitter and saw you got
Oh,
blamed and it's on there, and even though no one will ever know it's you,
I'd be
that has
mortified.
to,
That would have an effect. That would absolutely have an
yeah.
effect on how you view gender, how you view the apps. I would be so jaded. I'm already jaded and I'm not even on the apps. Like I couldn't even imagine, dude.
It's
Um,
funny because I was hating on the apps years like I was hating on the apps in the early mid teen or mid 2010s.
uh-huh.
Like 'cause it was obvious from the start that It's what do
what
you
this
got?
was
You're gonna be a clapping seal.
exactly, and that's what it is, and they enjoyed that. That's what I was saying in my video. One of the critiques of someone who was trying to support Steph when I was debating with him, he said, well, that's your problem right there. You said dating apps. You got to get off of those. They're dehumanizing. And it's like, okay, dude, but we live in the world, okay?
But even in the world, that mindset, and that's where I was saying with Steph, even though we're kind of going back to that, that's where I'm saying with Steph is he doesn't realize that a lot of people who are jaded about the dating world can, or I shouldn't say, I'll go, a lot of men who are jaded about the dating world can 100% in fact talk to women.
Yeah,
They've been on dates. This isn't just some angsty incel sitting at home gooning to hentai. Like
exactly, exactly.
it's like these are like there's real problems with real people that it's not even if you're not on the apps, it's the app mindset is
Yes.
out there.
Well, and it does the same thing to the women too, just in a different way. They get burnt out from the apps. And I'm not saying this like feel sorry for the women. I mean like when they go through hundreds or 500 guys in a month or whatever, and they're just thumbing through, they become increasingly more picky. So a
We
guy that
never
they
got a chance to talk about the one guy with the fish and the raunchy sweatshirt.
oh, we never got to, man, we might
It
have to
was stale by the time we
yeah,
recorded.
yeah, the other stuff happened, but it's the same thing, dude. Like that guy may have gotten picked by a woman who was within her first week on the app. But once you get five, a month into the apps, 2 months in, they all, from what I've heard, they all blend together and you start nitpicking. And that's where you get the ick from, where they don't really know why they're saying no to the guy. They're just like, something's off.
They
And
can't put
then
together that it's a fatigue, it's a general fatigue.
exactly, but that dopamine thing is overriding it because every time they get the fatigue, they go to the messages and there's 100 guys clapping like seals, like you said.
Well, the
Um,
other thing we'll have to touch on at some point is basically how, and people have talked about this, some of my mutuals, and I've seen it. Every chick on these apps, the one thing she always talks about is travel.
yes,
That
I
how
yeah.
travel has become completely bastardized
Mhm.
and longhouse to basically mean you go to Western Europe and you go to every tourist trap and all it is to get the
And
one picture at the one spot in Italy.
and you have to assume that means an increased body count too. When I hear travel, I'm like, okay, so
Didn't
you
you
were
show me a video where this chick was talking about how she had a boyfriend in every country?
yeah, yeah.
Travel's easier when you have a boyfriend in every country.
Yes. Yep. That's the same thing. She slept with all of them. So that's just body count, just stacking them up. Um, we could, when do you need to go, by the way? What's
Oh,
your
I got
what's
about 10 more minutes.
okay, cool. We'll do one more recruiting video. I think we can probably wrap it up after this and just see where this goes.
As much as cold healing annoys me as like a poster, he does post some good stuff.
Wait, what is it?
He's
What is
cold
it?
healing. That dude on Twitter. He posts all the recruiter corporate videos.
Oh, I enjoy it's kind of black pilling, but I enjoy the content.
His content's good, but then all of a sudden, when you see when you start seeing the takes from the person behind the content, it
Oh,
starts to
okay.
get a little annoying.
It's one of those. Gotcha. Yeah, let's look at this one.
Of
Ah,
course, she's Indian.
that's the other thing. That's yeah,
So
okay.
I not to get. I guess they won't listen, but so a good buddy of mine, his wife's Indian. They're both very nice, but they went to engineering school together. That's where they met. And she's got a job where she's a team leader, and she posted something that was just like being in your early 30s, having employees answer to you, and getting your nails done. It was something very, very striver.
Yeah. Wait, is she Indian?
Yes,
Oh,
from
okay. Well,
India.
yeah. Got you. Yeah, that's not a good combo there. But yeah, I mean there is something where they're like you said, they're getting there's like an element of revenge like on the white people and kind of
Well, the funny thing
getting to
is
be a part of that culture now.
she's married to Hank Hill.
No, that's how it always goes. Look at AOC, look at Ilhan Omar. They want to be
Yep.
conquered in the sheets. a leftist in the streets, but conquered in the sheets. It's real. That's totally real. I can't get any sound from the TikTok. It's the same concept. The only takeaway I had from the last two recruiting videos I was going to show you were just that these people are glorified corporate babysitters, man. Like we were saying, these should be 20-hour a week jobs at the most, where you're
It's
just
almost not
stapling.
even like they're the ones being babysat.
Yeah, well, that's the meme. Girl job, corporate girl jobs are Jewish daycare, basically.
Yeah,
Where they,
but I mean, it's
it's
so
pretty
much of it.
accurate.
Just it's what are you doing? Just going to get a salad and scroll Facebook.
Check my emails throughout the day. Oh, no one emailed me. Okay, well, let me go to this program. Let me see. It's not real. The economy is fake. It's gay. It's there. I mean, the problem is that it's tough. What
Well,
I'm
and
gonna
even though
go.
this will open another can of worms, men understand that the economy is fake and gay, but they say, screw it, I'm going to get my money out of it.
Right,
Women actually believe these $80,000 a year jobs.
right, right,
They
right.
actually buy into it.
Well,
They truly,
look at
all the stuff, all like the corporate lingo and rah rah, they fully buy into.
exactly. I mean, that was a lot of it when the return to work stuff was happening, where people were like, a lot of people were trying to read into it a conspiracy theory. They were like, the CEOs want you to return to work because they have all this office space that they paid for and they can't afford. And I saw a good tweet. It said there's probably an element of truth to that, but more likely than not, the reason for the return to work is that the women believe the lingo and they believe in, collaboration, and they believe in, a team building exercise once a week. Like they actually believe it, and they push you back to the office because they believe their own crap, basically. I
Yep.
believe that. I believe that. Talk to these women who are in like um women who are like a training specialist, or they're like a
Just any
event
white
event
collar job where they make over
an
forty
event
thousand a year.
or like an event coordinator, where all they do is just kind of like send out team
Send
building
emails.
exercise, yeah, all day. They believe that that stuff actually works. I think they've just convinced themselves of that because it's easy to believe that when things are going well, but things haven't not gone well for them, so
I've
they can
made the
buy
joke.
into it.
I've made the joke many times that I know some guys who make $300,000 a year. They talk about their job with disdain and
Yes.
hatred.
hmm
Like
hmm
they,
Like
they
actual finance bros. I don't mean like the
yeah.
throwaway term. I mean like a guy who worked like a buddy of mine. He works in downtown Dallas, and for a he works in banking for like 350 a year. That's the same thing. I don't mean a finance bro who's like I trade crypto an hour a day. I'm taking a class. Like, no, I
No,
mean
like a real
like an
legit
actual, yeah, yeah,
big money.
yeah, exactly.
Everyone I've ever met who makes that level of money, unless
They
they're
have
doing something
disdain
really, really cool,
unless they're like an
that's like a,
athlete, like or
or
like
it's just like, maybe work in talent management or,
or
cool
or
things like that.
I have a buddy who's it's funny, he's actually an event coordinator, but he's an event coordinator for AT&T Stadium where the Cowboys play.
And
Like
that's
that's
like
a cool,
actually
okay,
cool.
like okay.
But like
But
when
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
I work for Global Corp and I make and I made it. I make my 250K a year. But like anyone I've met like that hates it in the sense
Yes.
that like
Yes.
they're not going to give it up because they love the money and
Right,
it's
right.
awesome. But like they're not. Let me rephrase that. If they're white,
Yeah.
they're
Oh,
they're
totally.
not running into the bar, pulling out their bar stool and being like, "You got to hear about this merger." Like if you
Exactly.
bring up work, they'll give you a shrug and just be like, I don't work sucks. I hate this job.
Well,
And
it's
it's like the joke is they're always like, maybe I'll just save
maybe
up
I'll
some money and
and
quit.
sail off, get my boat and sail off and forget
But if
about
you
this
talk to
mess.
a girl who
Oh,
makes 75K a
oh,
year,
she will tell you about
she'll tell you about all the emails
the
she
mission
sent.
statement, the comma that she added to the company's goals and aspirate. Like,
That's too ambitious. A comma is even too much.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly.
basically just about team building, and they love talking about. Hold on, Friday Beers had a really good meme. Um, had to have saved it. It was like, oh, cool, you're a project manager, says the horniest man alive.
Yeah, no real. Wow. No way. Really? How did that project go? She did not say that. Oh, that is wrong of her to put
You
her
have
work on
how
you.
many people working under
Exactly.
you?
Exactly, man. Um, it's all good. I think we can probably wrap it up there. We were gonna do the Diddy thing. It's okay. The Epstein Diddy thing. I think Nick will have plenty of to say about that tonight on his show, so we can probably leave that. Um, but yeah, man, we'll do this again next week. If you guys enjoyed, follow SW on Twitter at SnowMed34. Me on Twitter, Jordan B Videos. That's VIDE0S. Um, Jordan B Videos, traditional spelling on YouTube. And yeah, this is State of Affairs. Hope you enjoyed. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Oh, yeah. Sounds good. Take
All right,
care.
later, bro.